Welcome back to TV5 News at 9. It is time now for our favorite segment, Education Matters. We are here with Dr. Craig Douglas. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you this morning, Dr. Douglas?
I'm well. Thank you for asking. How are you, Colette?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you. Another timely topic today. So last week we talked about applying for scholarships to colleges, and you mentioned, Dr. Douglas, the importance of the essay. And so today we're going to dive into what makes a good essay. So Dr. Douglas, before people start writing and when they're looking at the guidelines and directions, what do students really need to pay attention to when writing that essay?
It's such a basic first step, Colette. I went to the web, and the College Board is one of the sources that I consulted, and they clearly state that students need to read the directions very carefully, specifics about font, margin, word count, and then answer the question that's being posed. Is there a word prompt that's going to be answered in the essay, or is the essay more general to tell background and interest the students have? So those basic things seem fundamental, but any misstep in any one of those basic first steps could actually DQ or disqualify the response, regardless of how great the essay is.
And that seems simple, you know, just make sure you read and reread the directions and guidelines. Now, Dr. Douglas, a lot of students are told to write in their own voice. What does it actually mean to write in your own voice, and how can students practice writing in your own voice?
May I paraphrase an administrator at Yale who said, students need to be sure they're not trying to get their imaginary friend accepted into college. They need to be authentic. Authenticity is the key, Colette. So I just love the way he phrased it, because really I think many times all of us, Adana, we try to put forth our best effort, and sometimes we wonder if we need to try and create a new reality of sorts, and the truth is no. Students need to explain the reality they are in. A quick example, my wife was director of guidance at Garber High School for nearly 2 decades, and one of her students, John Paul Morosi, is well known in the sports world. He's a contributor for the Major League Baseball Network and Fox Sports. Anyway, when John Paul was writing his essay for Harvard University, he wrote about the closure of Tiger Stadium. That happened to be the year the Tiger Stadium closed. Being a big sports fan, John Paul wrote about the stadium, his passion for the sport, the various nuances of the stadium, from the green grass to the seats, et cetera, et cetera. I remember how detailed the essay was, and Joan used that often for her students as an example of a very effective essay on a topic of passion to the student being admitted. And of course, John Paul was admitted into Harvard. It's done very, very well.
I love that. So you get your voice across and your passion, and they can see that in your writing. So it's very important. Just be yourself. I love that, Dr. Douglas. That's a great tip. So how much time should someone expect to spend on an essay for a college application?
I think that's another very great basic question. And the truth is, more than just a couple minutes. Many times, all of us feel rushed to get the task done, to get the narrative written. Students are no different. Many times, students are famous or infamous, however you want to put it, for putting things off to the last minute. That's a big do not do activity. They need to create time and space. I think a good rule of thumb would be a week to 2 weeks for the beginning of the essay to its conclusion, and including into it many, many drafts. Again, I'll reference my wife. As a guidance counselor, would write letters of recommendation for students. This was her version of her college essay, repeated over and over and over in unique fashion for her high school seniors. I would recall Joan sitting and scribbling and drafting, redrafting, recreating over several days for these letters of application. Students should put the same priority into their college essays. And that also goes for applications for scholarships. As a scholarship reviewer, I know I read many essays, and you can kind of tell the ones that are written kind of last minute without a lot of rewriting, and the ones that have put forth their best effort and a lot of thought, again, in their own voice.
I love that. That's why it's so important not to procrastinate. Leave that extra time so you can reread it, go through it again, and write those drafts. I like that. Okay, so Dr. Douglas, you know, a lot of kids get overwhelmed when they're applying for colleges and writing their essay. So if a student is struggling with their essay or wants some extra help, where should they go? Who can they turn to?
Well, first and foremost, I'd suggest their English teacher.
Yes.
English teachers are very, very skilled at helping students get unstuck, especially if they have a little writer's block or a little bit of fatigue or a little bit of frustration. I think that's a great first step. Librarians and media specialists are also great resources in schools. And of course, I mentioned my wife. Guidance counselors are crucial. Guidance counselors can also help, and many times can provide examples or starters for students to get unstuck. So I would look within their own high school setting first for resources.
I love that. And don't be scared to help, because they are always so willing to help out. They know how important this is. Once again, Dr. Douglas, very valuable information and timely. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. I want all students to be accepted. You know that.
I know you do. Thank you again, Dr. Douglas. For more information, of course, you as well, Dr. Douglas, for more information about today's topic, just check out the school source page at WNEM.com.